Thank you for today's deposit. The account balance is now. Deposit? What deposit, Chidi? You told me there wasn't money for our children's school fees. Tell me I'm reading somebody else's messages.
Give me my phone.
Who is Grace?
Amaka, you are misunderstanding.
3 years, Chidi. 3 years I have been calling my siblings, emptying my shop's profit, watching you sit in that corner, acting like a suffering man. 3 years. My name is Amaka, and this is my story. I'm not telling you this to shame my husband. I am telling you this because somewhere out there, another woman is living exactly what I lived. And she needs to know she is not imagining things. She is not being ungrateful. She is not overreacting. In 2022, my siblings pooled money together and helped me open a small provision shop along our street. It wasn't big. A few shelves, a fridge for cold drinks, biscuits, detergent, the everyday things people run to buy when they don't want to go all the way to the main market. But it was mine. It gave me something to hold on to, something that made me feel like I was contributing to my family, not just receiving from my husband. My husband, Chidi, is a caterpillar operator. He has worked with the same construction company for almost 7 years, moving earth for road projects and building sites across Lagos and Ogun State. It is hard work, physical work, the kind of work that leaves a man's body aching by evening. I respected that about him. I still do, even now, even after everything. In 2023, everything started to shift, so quietly that I did not notice it happening until I was already deep inside it. Chidi began complaining almost every evening about his salary. He said the company was underpaying him. He said instead of increasing his pay, they were finding ways to reduce it. Some evenings, he would sit quietly in the corner of our parlor, staring at nothing. And when I asked what was wrong, he would say, "I am tired of suffering like this, for a company that does not see me." One night, he told me he wanted to resign, just stop the job entirely. I begged him not to. I told him a man should never sit at home doing nothing, that whatever the company was paying, it was still better than nothing, that we would manage it together. I did not know, at the time, that managing it together would mean me carrying almost everything on my back, while believing I was simply being a supportive wife. That was the year he reduced what he gave me for feeding our 3 children from 100,000 naira a month to 70,000. I did not argue. I simply started adding to it quietly from my shop's profit, telling myself this was what marriage required: sacrifice, understanding, patience. In 2024, something changed, or at least, that is what I was made to believe. Chidi came home one evening, looking almost relieved, telling me the company had increased his salary slightly, from 130,000 naira to 150,000, because he had threatened to resign, and they didn't want to lose him. He increased what he gave me for the house from 70,000 to 85,000 naira. I was grateful, genuinely grateful. Even though 85,000 naira could never truly stretch across feeding, transportation, and small emergencies for 5 people, I was thankful for what felt like progress. I never once thought to question the numbers he was giving me. Why would I? He is my husband. I trusted him completely. What Chidi never knew, or perhaps never cared to notice, was that I was the one paying our children's school fees almost every single term, not him. Me, from the small, hard-won profit of my provision shop. When the fees were due, and my shop's money fell short, I called my siblings. Again and again, I called them, each time feeling smaller, each time apologizing for needing help yet again, never once telling them the full truth of why I needed it so often. By 2025, the pattern had a rhythm of its own. In the early months of that year, Chidi increased what he gave me again, this time to 130,000 naira, explaining that his salary had now moved to 200,000 naira. He told me he wanted to keep 70,000 naira for himself, for fuel, for his personal upkeep, for small things a man needs. I felt for him. I genuinely did. I told him, fine, keep your 70, but let me have an extra 30 on top of the 100, so I'll manage 100,000. He agreed. And still, some months, he would ask me to call my siblings again, because things were tight. Then in April of this year, he increased it once more, to 170,000 naira, saying prices in the market had gone up, and he understood I was struggling. By then, he had perfected something I did not have a name for yet. He would sit in that same corner of our parlor, shoulders slumped, face heavy with what looked like the weight of the entire world, and if I asked what was wrong, he would sigh and say, "Is this how I will continue to suffer with this small salary for the rest of my life?" I believed him completely. I felt sorry for him. I prayed for him. I told my own mother that my husband was a hard-working man being underpaid by a wicked company, and she prayed for him too. None of us knew we were praying over a performance. Then came June, the month that changed everything, though I did not know it yet. Chidi was involved in an accident at the construction site. I do not need to describe every detail, but it was serious enough that he was rushed to a private hospital, and serious enough that I dropped everything, my shop, my children with a neighbor, my own fear, and ran to be by his side. What I remember most from those first 2 days is running. Running from one family member's house to another, asking, sometimes begging, for money to keep the hospital treating him. I remember standing at his bedside, exhausted, drained, when he looked at me and said something that has stayed lodged in my chest ever since. "Amaka, maybe it is better I just die and rest. I am tired of being a burden." I was so angry hearing those words, not because I thought he meant them literally, but because I felt he was performing pain in front of me, even while lying in that hospital bed. And some small part of me, a part I did not want to listen to yet, began to wonder why a man who was supposedly loved and cared for by his company would speak of himself as such a burden. A few days later, Chidi told me a friend of his had helped with 400,000 naira toward the hospital bill, and that we still needed 250,000 more to complete the 650,000 naira total. He asked if I could raise it. I called my siblings once more. I told them the company had abandoned my husband in his time of need, that we were on our own, that if they did not help, I did not know what we would do. They helped. Of course they helped. That is what family does. I never once imagined I was raising money to cover a bill the company itself had already quietly paid in full. If you are watching this and you have ever felt that something in your marriage did not add up, but you kept giving your husband the benefit of the doubt because that is what a good wife is supposed to do, I need you to keep watching, because what I discovered next will show you why trusting your instincts matters. And if this story is moving you even a little, please subscribe to this channel, because I promised myself that if I ever found the courage to tell this story, I would tell it fully, and I want you here for every part of it. That same month, while Chidi was still recovering at home, 2 of his colleagues from the construction site came to visit him, Uzo and another man named Femi. I served them drinks, sat with them briefly, and because my heart was still heavy from everything we had been through, I began to complain, gently at first, about how badly I felt the company had treated my husband. I told them how worried I had been, how we had struggled to raise money for his treatment, because the company had offered nothing. Uzo looked genuinely confused. He told me, gently, almost as though he was afraid of the words leaving his mouth, that the company had in fact paid for the entire hospital bill directly to the hospital, every single naira of it. He said it was standard company policy for site accidents, and that Chidi's file had been processed within days. I sat very still. I asked him, carefully, what my husband's actual salary was. Uzo hesitated, glancing again toward the kitchen, before answering. Madam, as far as I know, operators at Chidi's level and experience are on 430,000 naira now. That's what most of us on his grade earn, 430,000 naira. I sat there smiling politely, thanking Uzo for the information, offering him more drink, behaving as though my entire world had not just quietly cracked open in front of two men who had no idea what they had just done to me. When they finally left, I stood in my kitchen for a long time, staring at nothing, doing arithmetic in my head that I did not want to finish. 150,000 naira. That is what he had been giving me, for 5 people, out of 430,000 naira. Meanwhile, I had spent my shop's profit, borrowed from my siblings twice, once for school fees I never should have had to fully cover, and once for a hospital bill that had already been settled by his employer before I ever picked up my phone to beg for help. I want to be honest with you about what happened inside me in the days that followed, because I think this is the part most people skip when they tell stories like mine. I did not confront him immediately. I did not scream. I did not throw anything. I simply went quiet. I stopped eating properly. I would prepare food for my children and my husband, watch them eat, and find that I simply could not bring myself to swallow more than a few spoonfuls myself. It was not deliberate. My body simply refused. Every time I looked at Chidi, something in my chest would tighten, and my appetite would disappear along with it. I kept replaying every single increase he had given me over 3 years, and I began to see it for what it truly was. Not generosity, not a struggling man doing his best, but a carefully managed performance. Each time his real salary increased, he gave me a small fraction of that increase, dressed up as a sacrifice, while keeping the majority for himself, for reasons I still did not fully understand. I began to question everything. Was the accident even as serious as he made it seem? Was his tiredness in that corner every evening real exhaustion? Or was I watching a performance I had been trained, through 3 years of marriage, to feel sorry for? I hated how much that question made me doubt a man I had shared a bed with for 9 years. Some nights, I found myself thinking of things I am not proud to admit on camera. Thoughts of what it would feel like to make him pay back every single naira I had spent covering for him. Thoughts of leaving quietly and letting him discover an empty side of the wardrobe. Thoughts far darker than that on my worst nights. I share this not because I acted on any of it, but because I want any woman watching this who has felt that same ugly anger to know she is not a bad person for feeling it. Betrayal does strange things to a gentle heart. Eventually, I decided that silence would not get me any answers, and anger alone would not fix anything either. About 2 weeks after Uzo's visit, on the very evening you saw at the beginning of this story, I finally asked Chidi to sit with me properly and explain everything, without performance, without a corner to hide his face in. I am not shouting. I am not even asking for a fight. I only want the truth, Chidi. All of it. Why? He was silent for a long time, longer than I expected. When he finally spoke, his voice was smaller than I had ever heard it. Amaka, my father died leaving my mother with nothing. I watched her struggle, because my father spent everything he earned as it came, never saving, never planning for what would happen if the money stopped one day. I swore I would never let that happen to my own family. When the company started increasing my salary steadily from 2022, I panicked. I did not know how to tell you the real numbers without you expecting me to spend everything immediately, the way my father did. So I kept increasing what I told you slowly, and I was saving the rest, quietly, in an account you did not know about, because I was terrified of what would happen to all of you if something ever happened to me and there was nothing saved. I sat there processing what he had just told me. Somewhere in his tangled, fear-driven logic, there was a kernel of a man trying, in his own broken way, to protect his family from a future he was terrified of. But that explanation could not erase what he had actually done, allowing me to beg my siblings for a hospital bill his own company had already paid, allowing me to carry the full weight of our children's school fees while calling himself the sole provider, allowing me to lose weight and appetite and sleep over money he had, the entire time, safely tucked away. Chidi, protecting our future does not mean starving my dignity in the present. You let me beg. You let me feel small in front of my own siblings. That is not protection. That is betrayal wearing the clothes of caution. You are right. I am sorry, Amaka. I do not have an excuse good enough for what I put you through. If you have ever discovered a truth in your own marriage that made you question everything you thought you knew, I want you to hear how I chose to move forward. Not because it is the only right way, but because it is the way that let me keep both my dignity and my family intact. And if this story has meant something to you, please subscribe, because I promise to keep sharing real stories like mine, exactly as they happened, without pretending life is neater than it actually is. I did not simply forgive and forget that same night. I told Chidi plainly that trust, once broken this deeply, does not repair itself with an apology alone. I asked him to show me the savings account he had kept hidden, every kobo of it, and he did, without protest, laying his passbook and his phone banking app on the table between us, like a man finally putting down a weight he had carried alone for too long. We agreed, that night and in the weeks that followed, to manage our finances together going forward, not with him deciding what I deserved to know, and not with me quietly absorbing every gap he left behind, but as two people who show each other their full numbers and make decisions side by side. He moved a significant portion of what he had saved into repaying my siblings in full, with his own hand, his own apology attached to every transfer. My provision shop, the one my siblings helped me start in 2022, has grown steadily since then. I expanded it earlier this year with money that, for the first time in 3 years, I did not have to stretch to cover someone else's hidden comfort. I still watch Chidi carefully. Trust, once cracked, takes a long time to fully set again, and I am not going to pretend 3 difficult years disappeared because of one honest conversation. But I will tell you this, my appetite has slowly returned. I sleep a little easier now, knowing the numbers between us are finally honest ones. I am not writing this story to tell you my marriage is perfect, because it is not. I am writing it because I want every woman quietly carrying a burden she does not fully understand yet to trust the small voice inside her that says something does not add up. Ask the questions. Look at the numbers. Your peace is worth more than anyone's comfortable silence. My name is Amaka, and this was my story. Not a fairy tale, not a tragedy, just the truth, exactly as I lived it, still being written one honest day at a time. If you have ever felt unseen in your own home, I hope my story reminds you that your instincts are not foolishness. They are wisdom, waiting patiently for you to finally listen